The girl stood at Silas Ward's gate, clutching an envelope as if it were a sacred relic. Silas, a man who hadn't smiled in 20 years, felt his chest tighten at the sight of her tilted head, stirring a forgotten warmth. She was blind, her fingers traced the wooden fence post with practiced care, yet her unseeing eyes seemed to peer straight through him. The morning sun stretched shadows across the dry grass of his Wyoming ranch, and Silas watched from his porch as the girl waited. She was no older than 12, her brown hair tied with a faded ribbon, her dress dusty from a long journey. Behind her stood Fletcher Knox, a man Silas hadn't seen in 15 years, his weathered face etched with worry as he scanned the empty road. What unsettled Silas most was the envelope's cream-colored paper, its familiar script sparking memories he'd buried deep. His hands trembled as he stepped off the porch, boots crunching on gravel. The girl's head turned at the sound, and she smiled. Not a child's polite gesture, but a knowing expression, as if they shared a secret. Fletcher removed his hat, nodding respectfully. His silver-streaked hair and lined face spoke of hard miles traveled. "Silas Ward?" the girl asked, her voice clear and steady. "Depends who's asking," Silas replied, his tone rougher than intended. She extended the envelope, hands trembling slightly. "I was told to give this to you. No one else can read it." Silas stared at the careful script spelling his name. It was Elizabeth's handwriting, his Elizabeth, dead 20 years in the fire that destroyed their home and future. His throat went dry. "Where'd you get this?" The girl's smile flickered. Fletcher shifted, uneasy, as if they'd rehearsed this moment but not his questions. "It's explained in the letter," she said. "But, Mr. Ward, it changes everything." Silas took the envelope, its weight heavier than paper should be. When his fingers brushed hers, he noticed calluses that spoke of hard work. She stepped back, as if completing a ritual. "Ruby," Fletcher said softly, "maybe we should let him read it privately." "No," Ruby said, firm. "I need to be here." Those were the instructions. Silas studied the envelope's wax seal, a symbol he'd hoped never to see again. Breaking it, he read, "Silas, if you're reading this, I'm gone, and Ruby has found you." Elizabeth's words, fresh despite her death. His knees weakened. "This is a cruel joke." "Keep reading," Ruby said, her voice echoing Elizabeth's gentle calm. The next line struck like a blow, "I survived the fire, Silas. I was burned, too ashamed to let you see me. I let you believe I was dead because it was kinder." He stared at Ruby, searching for Elizabeth in her features, the shape of her chin, the tilt of her head. "Impossible," he whispered. "The fire took my sight," Ruby said. "But not her stories about you, the swing you built before proposing, your off-key singing while feeding the horses." Silas's world tilted. Those were private moments only Elizabeth knew. Before he could read further, hoofbeats echoed across the valley, riders approaching fast. Fletcher's face darkened. "We need to get inside." "Why?" Silas asked, already moving toward the house. Ruby's voice chilled him. "People would kill for what's in that letter." Inside, Silas bolted the door as Fletcher checked windows. Hoofbeats grew louder, for horses at least. "Who are they?" Silas demanded, grabbing his rifle. "Men after a mining claim," Ruby said, calm despite the danger. "They've tracked us for 3 days." "A mining claim?" Silas glanced at the letter. Elizabeth never mentioned mining. "It was her father's," Fletcher said. "Lost when everyone thought she died. They've been hunting it for 20 years. 4 riders stopped outside, their leader, a tall man with a graying beard, dismounting. "Ward, send out the girl and the old man. Nobody gets hurt." Silas's protective instincts flared. He wouldn't surrender a child to armed men. "How do they know you're here?" "They've tracked us since Colorado," Fletcher said. "We thought we'd lost them at the river." Ruby pulled a photograph from her pocket, a scarred Elizabeth holding a baby, her eyes mirroring Ruby's determination. "She's watched you," Ruby said. "She knew you set 2 plates for dinner, kept her photo under your pillow." The leader's voice grew impatient. "We'll do this the hard way, Ward." Silas scanned the letter. Elizabeth wrote of a hidden deed, coordinates disguised as dates. "The mining claim's real," Fletcher confirmed. "Worth enough to kill 4. The back door splintered. "They're coming in," Fletcher warned, checking his pistol. Ruby's voice cut through the chaos. "I'm not just your daughter, Mr. Ward. I'm the only one who knows the real claim's location. Mother taught it to me in a lullaby. The letter's coordinates are fake." Gunfire erupted as 2 men burst through the door. Fletcher fired, forcing them behind the kitchen table. Silas returned fire, his solitary life shattering. Elizabeth had made Ruby a living map, the key to a fortune. "How much is it worth?" Silas shouted. "Enough to buy half the territory," Fletcher replied. "A silver vein deeper than anyone imagined." Glass broke at the front, more men, moving with military precision. Ruby grabbed his arm. "There's a root cellar behind the stove. Mother described this house. She knew you'd built a hiding place." Silas stared. How could Elizabeth know about the cellar he'd dug after her death? "She's been watching," Ruby said. "Close enough to know your fears." They descended into the cramped cellar, stocked with supplies. Above, boots thundered as men searched. Ruby whispered, "Fletcher isn't my guardian. He's Mother's partner. They've spent 15 years building resources to reclaim what was stolen." "What was stolen?" Silas asked. "The claim was just the start," Ruby said. Mother's father found evidence of territorial officials selling fake land grants. She built a case to bring them down. The leader, Marcus Bledsoe, shouted threats to burn the house. Ruby continued, "The letter lists names, including Bledsoe's. He thinks it's about the claim, but it's evidence of his treason." "How old are you?" Silas asked. 17, Ruby admitted. "Blindness makes people underestimate me. Mother taught me survival requires deception." They waited until the men retreated, then emerged into a ransacked house. Ruby gathered supplies with eerie familiarity. "Mother said you'd want your father's watch and her locket. They're behind the bedroom window's loose board." Silas found them, untouched. "How could she know?" "She comes here," Ruby said. "Watches from the ridge. Knows you never sold her ring, hoping she'd return." Tears threatened. "Why didn't she tell me she was alive?" "Bledsoe was watching," Fletcher said. "Contact would have killed you both." Ruby led them along hidden trails to an old mineshaft. A thin column of smoke rose, and a woman's silhouette sat by a fire. Elizabeth, scarred, thinner, but unmistakably her. "Hello, Silas," she said, her voice rough but familiar. He stepped toward her, hand trembling. "I mourned you every day." "I know," she said, stopping his hand before it touched her scarred cheek. "Bledsoe's men watched you. I couldn't risk it." Elizabeth spread documents, proof of Bledsoe's land fraud. "He killed my father when he uncovered this. Now he knows we have it." Ruby added, "Justice has to be personal. The courts are corrupt." Fletcher reported riders approaching, a dozen men. Elizabeth checked her rifle. "We end this tonight." Silas, his quiet life unraveling, asked, "What do you need?" "Help us stop Bledsoe," Elizabeth said, "or we die trying." Ruby's hand found his arm. "Mother's not the gentle woman you knew. Survival made her hard. You'll need to be harder." At dawn, Bledsoe's men attacked. Elizabeth's defenses, hidden positions and explosives, trapped half in a rockslide. Ruby reloaded with uncanny precision, trained for war. Bledsoe advanced, sneering, "You should have stayed dead, Elizabeth." Silas stepped forward, unarmed. "This ends between us, Marcus." Before Bledsoe could fire, Ruby shot him, her blind aim perfect. "Mother taught me to shoot by sound," she said as he fell. The remaining men fled. 3 months later, Elizabeth's evidence toppled the corrupt territorial government. The Ward family reclaimed the claim, and Ruby founded a school for blind children. Silas and Elizabeth rebuilt their home, remarrying with Ruby as witness. Elizabeth bared her scars, and they sat on the porch swing, watching sunsets. The mine's silver secured their future, but their reunion was the true treasure. Justice served, the Wards were whole again.